Hey, this is Anney.
And Samantha.
And welcome to Stuff I Never Told You, a production of iHeartRadio. Before we get into today's episode, just a quick content warning, or we're just going to be discussing some topics around sexual assault. I feel like Donald Trump is kind of a warning in himself. But the book we're talking about today at large does go into it. Highly recommend you read it. We barely touched the surface. There's so much that we didn't get to talk about in this conversation. So go check it out, but just know that that is something that is in there. And today we are so excited to be joined by journalist and author of the New York Times bestselling book, Not My Type, One Woman versus the President, E. Jean Carroll. Welcome to the show.
Yay!
Exactly.
Yes, that's how we feel.
I'm just glad to see that you are here. I hear you've been on jury duty.
Yes, I was. I actually tried to look up the case because I did get dismissed. They didn't like me enough, or they were afraid of me. One of the two things. So I got dismissed.
What was the case?
It was malicious murder and a lot of felonies with that. So it was a shooting that happened here in Decatur/Atlanta. So it was going to be at least a 5-day trial, we're pretty sure. But
at least.
Yeah.
Could have been a 10-day trial.
So I was like,
man.
Okay. So our jury, our initial jury questioning took 2 days, and they didn't even finish with us. They were just like, okay,
wow,
we got at least 40 something out of the 60. We'll see if we can pick from there. So it was definitely a lot longer than I'd anticipated, and that was actually my first time being present. Like, I usually get dismissed before. So after the questioning, I don't think they liked the fact that I said I was on a podcast for intersectional feminism.
No. Immediate dismissal.
Yeah.
Immediate.
Right.
So what else did they ask you?
They asked me about that. It was really kind of funny because you know how they ask about jobs? They're like, podcaster, with like kind of a doubt. And I was like, yeah, I understand. It's a job, I promise. But I had experience as a social worker in like the Department of Juvenile Justice, as well as investigating child abuse. So they were like, yeah, all of that. We're just going to go ahead and dismiss you.
No, unless, oh boy.
Oh no.
The prosecutor was extremely smart. I would have put you on the jury.
I don't know if they argued about me. There was a lot of like,
I'll bet you they did. I don't know
behind the scenes.
Yeah. What was the racial makeup of the people who showed up for jury duty?
It was actually pretty mixed in race, because I think there was like the least amount was Asian people and Latina people. But there was a lot of like very heavy like Black community base, especially in that area, as well as white. So essentially, I think it was like more Black community than any other demographic. Yeah, Decatur, it kind of hits that way,
right?
But yeah, and I see what you're doing. I see you're questioning me and using your interview skills over here. This is not this episode, ma'am. No, ma'am.
No. It's just juries are fascinating.
They are. You're right. It was interesting. I was kind of both of those, like, I don't have time for this, and the thought of being on this type of trial really makes me a little anxious. So I didn't want to be on it, but at the same time, I'm still curious, and I kind of want to know how that played out, and especially knowing the jurors. Like, we had enough time to all talk about our thoughts, and I was like, oh, this is going to be an interesting makeup.
I'm interested in juries, of course, because before first trial against Donald Trump, we had something called mock juries.
Oh, really?
This is jury exercise on big cases where a lot is at stake. And there was a lot at stake because I had sued the sitting president of the United States.
Right.
And so it's mock juries are where you present your arguments to 27 typical jurors to see if your arguments are working. You don't quite, so we put on an entire trial in front of 27 typical New Yorkers in a big ballroom in downtown New York. We put on witnesses. We had videotapes. We had someone representing, we had Donald Trump represented by one of our lawyers who played Joe Tacopina.
Oh, my goodness.
The great criminal defense lawyer. And the case went, we thought the arguments were brilliant. And then the 27 typical New York jurors met to discuss the cases. And they were divided into 3 of 9 each. And here's what they decided. They all agreed that, yes, 2 people could end up in a dressing room in Bergdorf Goodman. Yes. And yes, they agreed that 2 people could involve themselves in something sexual in a dressing room in Bergdorf Goodman in 1996. And they agreed that the 2 people in the dressing room at Bergdorf Goodman were Donald Trump and E. Jean Carroll. But what they all thought was that I was begging him for it.
Oh, all of them?
Pretty much.
Wow.
Pretty much all the men. Pretty much all the men.
Yeah, sure.
Of course.
Now,
Which is
why
what...
was that? It was because they saw me on videotape at a deposition. I was too old, too desiccated, too much of an old crone, that they couldn't imagine what it was like in 1996. They couldn't see it. So then we had to redo my hair like it was in 96,
Yes.
did the makeup like it was in 96.
Yes.
I wore clothes that I actually owned and wore in 1996. And so that's what we did. And we found out our arguments were way off.
Wow.
We thought we were doing a case for all women.
Right.
We thought, this is going to be where this is, powerful men may not always be believed.
Mm-hmm.
Perhaps a woman has a story.
Right.
Oh, no. No, the gender divide is as strong as ever in this country. We found out. And Robbie Kaplan, the great, legal mind of her generation, my attorney, said from now on, this case is not for all women, Gene. This case is about you and Donald Trump, and he lied.
Right.
So that's why I'm so fascinated with juries.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense.
I mean, it's just fascinating.
It is.
We had the best case in the world. They didn't see it because I'm too old.
Mm-hmm.
Too old.
Prejudice.
Too ugly. So, yeah.
And you did an amazing job in opening this because, yes, you essentially had that as an introduction for this amazing book. Before we start, because we did mention who you were and what we're specifically talking about today, and I think you really don't need that big of an introduction. The minute I saw your name in our email, I was like, yes, we need to talk to her immediately. But can you introduce yourself to our listeners, just in case?
Well, how do you do? How do you do? I'm E. Jean Carroll. I'm a journalist. Been a journalist for 50 years. I was an advice columnist for Elle for 27 years. And I've led a really fascinating, wonderful, incredible life. I was Miss Cheerleader USA. And I happened to sue. I happen to be the only person on the planet to have beaten Donald Trump twice.
Mm-hmm. The balloons are amazing. I'm so in love with that.
Yes, listeners, there are balloons happening in the background.
Oh, there's so much to your life story that there's so many things that we could talk about. And I really hope we can be friends enough that you want to come on to our show again so that we can have a deep dive about your life and all the things that you've experienced, just alone in your advice columns. And because you were kind of the beginning with the many others to talk about what it is to have a column based on people asking you for your advice. You talk about therapists asking you for your advice. So we want to have you on for so much more. So please, if you have any free time and you want to hang out with 2 lonely girls in the South, we need you to come back on for more. But
now, why would anybody want to come on the show of 2 women who have decided to do a podcast every single day of the week? Who are you? Why would you do it every day?
That's a great question.
That is true. One must ponder that before accepting our offer.
Wow.
We're just saying, would you fill one of those spaces up again?
That's true.
It's amazing. And it's a huge accomplishment.
Thank you.
Then people get addicted to you.
I hope so.
Then they've got to hear it.
I hope
you become part of their day.
Yeah.
So that's, in a way, very wise. Very, kind
of like the whole jury divide. I think there's a love and hate for us.
My God. Let me ask you, do you run out of things to say?
We haven't yet.
Yeah. And I think with the state of the world, there's other things at least we can update, because we have to constantly update because of the way things have changed so quickly. And as long as we have the freedom to do so, we will, much like having you on the show, which we are so privileged to have you on the show. But yeah, like right now, we have to kind of go into the darkness, if you will. But there's plenty there in that darkness.
Yeah.
I think we're having a harder time in trying to find the optimistic point of view of everything.
So it must be amazing that you had to really start turning towards the dark, because I know you two don't necessarily, that's not your life vision.
No.
I know it's not. I've been doing this. I've been on this podcast either as a producer or editor since 2010.
Wait a minute, 2010?
2010.
I didn't start as a host until I think 2018.
Wow.
But I was producing and editing. And so seeing the timeline of how things have changed in this space has been really, really wild.
Particularly the road that women have taken since 2010.
Yes. Yes, indeed. Well, one thing we wanted to talk about before we get into your book more in depth is that you do have this really varied writing career. You've written for SNL, you're a contributing editor for Playboy, the advice column, Ask Eugene, numerous books. You've had a lot of adventures doing it. How did you get into writing?
When I was 12, I sent off my first pitch letter to the Sears and Roebuck catalog. I had an idea for a story. I was raised in a house full of magazines. One of the high points of my childhood was my father coming home, waving Time magazine, and saying, "They've published my letter in Time magazine." And the whole street where we lived was like, "Oh my God, Tom Carroll's got his letter published in Time magazine." So I thought, wow, this is pretty exciting being in a magazine, right? So that's sort of what I wanted to do. And I spent 25 years after pitching the Sears and Roebuck catalog at the age of 12. It took me 25 years to get in my first magazine. 25 years. Can you imagine the hideous ambition, drive, lust to be in magazines that would drive some poor woman 25 years through the blizzard of no's from New York editors? I never got a yes. And then in Esquire, a woman named Marilyn Johnson picked my poor manila envelope off the top of their slush pile. And Esquire at the time was just the most brilliant literary magazine in the country. And their slush pile, I have pictures of them, were 5 and 6 feet tall. That's how tall their slush pile. And she happened to pick it off. And she called me and they accepted it. So that's all I needed to get in. Once I was in, once you're in, you're in.
Right.
And I got my big size 11 shoe in that Esquire door, and that's all I needed.
I love that. There's so many questions. I have a feeling this is going to be a long interview because every time you give us such great storytelling information, I have more questions that come off of that. So hopefully we can get through this in the hour allotted to us. If not, I'm telling you, we want you to come back. But all of that to say, how did you deal with 25? What made you keep going? within like having 25 years of rejection? Because I'm one of those that like, you hurt my feelings, I might just leave. Like that might be enough for me of a rejection, but you pushed through, and that's a dedication in itself. What made you keep going?
The glamorous life of a magazine writer is almost unimaginable today. To work for a magazine meant you had the ticket.
Mm-hmm.
They would send you anywhere in the world to write about people you had never met, would never see again, about some subject you knew nothing about, and they would send you away, and you would the life was so adventuresome and so glamorous that I couldn't help but want to just be right in the middle of everything.
Mm-hmm.
And it turned out to be true. Everything
you hoped
New
for,
York days in, the 80s at the peak of magazine glamour, running down the boulevards at 3:30 in the morning, eating French onion soup at 4 in the morning, you just banging on life. It's just ringing every bell. And there are several books out right now about the glamorous 80s magazine, the Graydon Carter biography. There's one now about Condé Nast coming out. But it really was, and it was romantic. And, it was a stupendous. Unfortunately now, do you know what our new magazines are? Our new magazines are now podcasts. That's what the new magazines are. That's it. The podcasts have taken over.
Well, I need the glamorous part.
I think it's pretty cool.
It is. Cool. It's an interesting format, I will say for sure. I want the glamorous part because I think your life story, your career story, where's your HBO series? You need one. You need it. Just to tell the people out there. And if someone does pick it up, I want a percentage. I need some royalties here.
Thank you.
That's smart. That's smart, Samantha.
I'm saying I'm going to
get that out there.
Put my name on here, y'all. Okay, again, like I said, I have a feeling we're going to have so much to talk about, and I'm going to try to focus. I promise I'm going to try to focus. In your book, Not My Type, One Woman versus a President, which, by the way, what a title, delves into your 2 lawsuits against Donald Trump. So before we get into the specifics, could you break down the lawsuits so we and the audience are all on the same page in knowing, especially what you thought of with the lawsuit and everything else? Could you break that down for us?
Very simple. In 1996, Donald Trump and I ran into each other in front of Bergdorf Goodman. Bergdorf Goodman is a luxury department. It's not a department store. It's a specialty store. It's like no other store on the face of the earth. It's a mansion at 7 floors, and it's just brilliant. He asked me to help him find a gift for a friend. I was delighted. That was my job. That's my business. I advise people. So it turned very dark when we got to the 6th floor. And it was so bad that I stayed silent about it for almost 30 years. And then the Weinstein story hit the cover of the New York Times. Remember that? And the waves of women standing up and telling their story. I just said, well, I am the biggest hypocrite of all time. God damn it, I'm 75. I'm not going to be silent any longer. And I told my story. When it hit, it was on the cover of New York Magazine. When it hit, for 3 straight days from the White House, he called me a liar. And he said I was a liar 26 different times. I knew there would be a ruckus. I was not at all prepared for that. And at a party at Molly Jong Fast, who you should also have on your podcast, she just wrote a great book about her mother. I ran into George Conway, of all people. And George was the first person to actually tell me about possibly something called a lawsuit. George was, of course, is a famous lawyer in his own right. He was Phi Beta Kappa from Harvard. He went to Yale Law School. He started the Lincoln Project. And he explained to me what a lawsuit is. Nobody had ever really taken the time. And he said, actually, he wrote a piece about it in the Washington Post, that George was a famous Republican. By the time at the party, he had written a big op-ed in the Washington Post to his fellow Republicans saying, if you believe Juanita Broderick, remember Juanita Broderick is the woman who claimed that President Clinton had raped her. So George's op-ed piece was, if you believe Juanita Broderick, you got to believe E. Jean Carroll because she has a better case, a stronger case. So I went over to thank him, and then that's when he explained that I had a lawsuit. And I never thought of lawsuits. I was not thinking of lawsuits. Other people are saying, are you going to sue? Are you going to sue? And it would not mean anything because I didn't even know what that meant. So he said, and I may be able to think of someone to help you. And the next day, here's an email saying, introductory email. And there were 2 words, Robbie Kaplan. It was like a bomb going off because, Robbie at that time was just trouncing the Nazis in Charlottesville. She'd opened the way to gay rights in America with Windsor. She was really, she really is one of the great legal minds that's ever practiced law in the whole United States. So we met 2 days later, and that was it. I knew the minute I shook her hand that this is what I wanted to do. So we sued him for defamation. We sued the sitting president for defamation. That started a long trip. And sued him for defamation. He asked the DOJ to step in and to pay his legal bills and represent him. While that case was stopped, a second case, I sued him again for sexual abuse because New York State passed something called the Adult Survivors Act. So then at midnight on Thanksgiving, I sued him again for sexual assault. So now we have 2 suits, okay? The one with sexual assault and defamation went first. That we won. Unanimous jury said Trump was liable for sexual abuse and defamation. We totally won that. 2 days later, after we won, Trump went on the CNN town hall and resaid and redid everything. He had just paid me $5 million because he said in the first. So I sued him again. And that became, that was added to the first suit. So the second trial was only about damages. We had proved there was sexual assault, so we didn't need what. Now it was about damage done to me. And that was the big trial. And he misbehaved it was wonderful just to see him in court. Oh my God, the apricot makeup, the hair done up like Barbara Stanwyck in Ball of Fire. I mean, the antics, it was an incredible, it was just, and after each day's trial, he would go out and say, this is a travesty of justice. I deserve the damages. She hurt me. Why? So that was the second trial, and that one we won, and he's being made to pay $83.3 million for his lies and the damage he did to me. Because he killed my reputation. Just killed it.
Right. And I know just last month, he lost the appeal to that, which is even more glorious to see.
No, he always loses the appeals. He loses every single appeal. He must be exhausted from losing. I mean, he just must see Robbie Kaplan's face and just fate from fear because he cannot win this case. He cannot win it. He's exhausted the appeals on the first trial, the $5 million trial. He's lost all the only thing he can do now is go to the Supreme Court. He has 60 days to go, and he hasn't gone yet. So I don't know what he's, I don't think. Well, wait a minute. Anney, Samantha, what do you think? Do you think the Supreme Court is going to want to hear a case where the President of the United States, who they all apparently worship, sexually abused a woman? Do you think they want to hear that case?
Want to hear?
Yeah,
I mean, know. Would they hear? I don't, because there's too much. I don't trust. You're trying to get me in trouble. There's a lot to be said that this Supreme Court, especially the way it's stacked, is there purposely and for a reason, and it's for Trump's advantage. So I think like I would hesitate saying that I don't think they would want to hear it, but I don't think they would completely dismiss it. So who knows? Who knows? Because also we're not legal. I'm not a legal person, so.
But you're a highly intelligent person. It doesn't make sense that during these Epstein days that they would hear anything.
And that's the other question to that is, if he does, will that open it up? Because you mentioned that in your book and about the fact that you had that as like in your back pocket. That could be like, if he was smart about it, I would think that he, especially because I feel like he's done everything he can try to suppress that information. So this seems like if you were, but then again, I don't know the level of intelligence. I don't think highly of that. I'm getting in trouble.
Well, maybe the level of intelligence is they may want to help him win it.
Right. Well, also, like I said, the level of intelligence is like, this may give you an avenue to open up all of those questions about.
Oh, it would not. Yes, exactly. It would not be smart because their only argument. Do you know what Trump's argument is on this case?
Tell me.
Oh boy, you're not going to believe it. You are not going to believe it. Trump is saying, because one of my witnesses, remember I had 11 witnesses at the first trial, which is unusual because there are usually never any witnesses when sexual assault takes place. Well, we had 11 witnesses. One of those witnesses was Jessica Leeds. And you remember her. She was the woman who he assaulted on the airplane in 1980. Okay? And he's always denied it. And there are cases that she should not have been a witness. Are you ready for this? You better grip your desks. You got to grip because I don't want you to fall to the floor.
Okay.
Their argument is she should not have been allowed to be a witness because when he assaulted her in 1980, assaulting a woman on an airplane was not a crime in 1980.
I had a feeling you were going to say that. Because in the air. Yeah.
Oh my gosh. I thought it was going to be that she should have had her own case, which is also pretty damning.
Can you believe it?
I can. I feel like that's the level of Trump thinking.
That's how they're thinking. So,
so this is why I say I go back and forth, being like, I would say rationally he should not, but then again, his ego, as well as the fact that yes, he will continue to lose to you in order to try to win, which is also a thing. But now,
that's cool. That's. I like that. I like that. Yeah, that's good. Yeah,
I'm just saying that there's so much to that. That's like he is one of those, and then his team, whatever, whatnot. You would think they would have
the best. He's got the best lawyers in the country. You know, he's
maybe they're trying to just get more money from him.
Yeah, they're all now. Alina Habba is now, as you know, Attorney General. New Jersey, Joe Tacopina goes on to his attorneys are all okay. Alina Habba Esquire doesn't know diddly squat about the law. Okay, we understand that. We understand that. But she's brilliant. She's a great politician. Mark my words. She will be running for Senate soon. And she's got the stuff. She's got beauty, brains, confidence. She can do it all. She just didn't know anything about the law, anything.
It doesn't sound like a requirement needed for any of those
Yeah,
positions at this point in time.
yeah.
Yeah, it's there's a lot of things about Trump's like people in his orbit that I'm like, this is just you want someone who looks a certain way and who loves you. And so a lot of what I was reading in the book, I felt was less about the law and more that they were trying to play on people's ideas about sexual assault or people's ideas, like these things they know have worked, but they're not like actually using a good law case. Like they're just playing to these ideas and the jury, which one of the things that stuck out to me is you do start the book and you say, I want you to be as discombobulated as I was during this whole process. And you can just see transcripts of the questions you got asked. And it was very telling of what they were trying to paint, the story they were trying to tell. And I think the title, Not My Type, you talked about that a little bit earlier, but that's something we've discussed. We've been very open about our own experiences with sexual assaults. And one of the things with mine was that one of the first things I thought was, no one's going to believe me because I'm not pretty enough. They'll never believe it. And you talk about that in the book where you say, you wrote, nobody's going to believe an 80-year-old woman was ever attractive enough to assault. So can you talk about that and why you titled the book that?
Well, the title it's just too delicious because he was sitting at what's the famous desk called? The
Resolute desk.
Yeah, he was sitting at the Resolute desk when reporters from the Hill asked him about the assault. And he said to the reporters from the White House, as president, she's not my type. Okay. Then Miss Robbie Kaplan gets him in a deposition. She's at Mar-a-Lago. And he's on camera and everybody's recording him. And she gets him to say several times that he has been shown a photograph of me. She tells him 3 times she is about to show him a photograph of the plaintiff, E. Jean Carroll. She's fair, but she's like Odysseus. She just lays trap after trap, and like the Cyclops, poor old Trump is going to fall into most of those things. So after telling him 3 times she's going to show, she shoves a nice black and white photo across to him. It's got 4 people in it. She said, "Can you identify the people in this photograph?" Immediately, he says, "That's John Johnson." Why? John Johnson is on TV. That's the first person. He's my ex-husband. Great guy. Then he slides past Ivana. He says, "I don't know who that is." And then he points right at me. He says, "That's Marla." And Marla said, "You're saying that's Marla?" He says, "Yes. Yeah, that's my wife." Then Haba, "No, that's Carol!" leaps in, says, "No, that's Carol." And then Trump says, nod, and nods. And then he says about 7 seconds later, "But the photo is blurry." The photo, of course, is as clear it's just crystalline clear.
Mm-hmm.
So it was odd. If you see pictures of Marla and me from the time that it's difficult to tell us apart.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's really a strange thing. So most attorneys at that point would have said, "Look, it's over. You've got no case." I mean, that's it. But he of course went on. And so the not my type thing is, so he says, not my type. And then he says, yes, that's my. So of course I'm going to title the book, Not My Type, because he's not my type. He is not my type. And I don't think he's your type, Anney. I don't think he's your type, Samantha. I don't think he's our type. Do you?
No.
No.
I don't know. We need to hear from your listeners. We need to hear from listeners. Is Donald Trump your type? I don't know. Is Donald Trump your type? Seriously.
I'm a little nauseated.
Right. We can't talk about this in context as if he's human.
No. Can I just say for the listeners, I have them on camera. They're both looking like they're ready to, well, I don't know. They're holding their hands over their mouths, both of them. I don't know.
You're trying to get us in trouble for real, for real. I see what you're doing.
Wow. No.
Oh my goodness. Well, okay, so you already talked about your mock jury and the outcome of that trial and how it was like, okay, now we have to change our argument. As a part of this, you tried to recreate how you looked at the time. You even hunted down the hairstylist who gave you the bob. You recreated outfits.
Right.
Can you explain why that was so important?
I had to give the jury an echo of the woman that was attacked in Bergdorf's. They couldn't see it from me just sitting there, so we had to create the same look that I had in 1996. And so when they held up pictures of me in 1996, they could really put it together with the woman who was sitting at the plaintiff's table, because we were against a force so large and so powerful. The only thing that could fight that force was fact. And that's what we use. Fact. Mm-hmm. She is. Okay. They could see, okay, there's a dim echo of the woman that we're talking about here. That's what we had to go with.
That's such an odd situation in prepping for trials, is that you have to play or look the part in order to be A, believed, B, even heard at any point in time. And to that, you have to go through the most invasive questions. That seems nonsensical half the time. You're like, why are we even talking about this? My personal life has nothing to do with that specific incident. And at one point, I know the Trump team asked you about your lovers. Like, they needed to go through a whole list and even descriptors of people. And by the way, we just recently had an episode about Zoobilee Zoo. So when Ben Vereen came on your list, I was like, wait, what?
She did. She texted me.
I did.
How did I miss this?
I was like, what? Ben Vereen? I just talked about him. Anyway, moving on with that.
Wow.
I was just
love it.
It just made me laugh up. And you were able to respond with detail, unfortunately, because they kept asking you things. Like, all of that seems so over the top in any, this has nothing to do with anything. But with all of that, how were you able to go through and honestly do this type of interview with the humor that you were able to insert into this book? Because that in itself made me die a little bit. Just the thought of having to replay, tell about my personal life to talk about a really horrific incident. I'm just like, wait, what? And then you did it with such finesse in the book, but also just being able to do it seemingly respectfully to them, and just what was it like to go through that type of questioning?
talking about my lovers was one of the most fabulous moments I got to enjoy. I loved it. I love talking about my lovers. Love it. You want to talk about my lovers? Alina Esquire. Let's talk about my lovers.
You literally gave the accolades. That made me laugh even harder.
I started off with a gold medal Olympic world record holding butterfly tip, So it was the one moment in that deposition when I felt I was flying with happiness. It lifted the whole room. It was fantastic. It was just, she asked me questions, Alina Haba Esquire asked me questions like that to shame me, to humiliate, to make me look like a floozy. But, it made no sense. Why is she asking me about my lovers when they say he wasn't even there? When they say it didn't even happen. So the minute she's starting to ask me about my lovers, I know that she knows he was there. Right? At Bergdorf. So that it really, the absurdity of the trial. So the book is comic, a high comedy, because it's absurd. If he wasn't there, why are they asking me why I didn't scream? Did that make sense? Didn't make sense. Is it absurd? Yes. Is it funny? Yes, it's funny. You don't tear apart a woman, for not screaming when he wasn't there. So, yeah. That's why the book is funny.
Right. And the level of humor that you do put in this does kind of also reflect in the moments of seeing what's going on that you can't help but just laugh about the absurdity of it all. And that's one of the things that really, really push you about in that moment of you not realizing the ill intent that was about to happen.
Yeah.
And we talk about this all the time. We've gotten criticized by listeners, by men specifically, saying that we as a host giggle too much because we do talk about a lot of serious things. And our response is to kind of laugh at it because we can't do anything else. It feels like if we don't laugh at it, we might fall apart, or it just feels like we have to look at the absurdity beyond what's right in front of us, because if we don't, none of it would make sense. Not that it makes sense anyway, but at least we can find a little calming in laughter, which has a lot of therapeutic benefits.
Keep it up. Keep it up. That's that's one of our great weapons.
Exactly.
They don't like to be laughed at.
Exactly.
And keep laughing, ladies. Keep laughing. Go for it. Keep it up.
Yeah.
That you're being criticized is a good sign. That's a good sign. Do not stop with the giggling and do not stop with the laughing, please. It's a show of strength and confidence. That you can laugh shows that you're not fucking dead it's happening. It's flattening out the country. Because if you're laughing, that is a good sign. It's a sign of strength. Do not stop it. Jesus, come on.
I'm gonna take this audio clip and put it somewhere in my affirmations. But this is something Trump's lawyer made a big deal about, and that they tried to use against you, that you laughed instead of screamed. Yeah. Why do you think they focused so much on that? Maybe you just said it because it is a strength. But why do you think they focused so hard and was hoping that would discredit you somehow?
Well, they've now set women back 50 years, taking away our rights. So, of course, their argument is going to come from the 17th century or the 15th century, or from the Bible, actually. They're going to go 2,000 years back, and I better have fucking screamed or I'm lying. That is one of the oldest arguments. Actually, it's in the Bible. So it's just the Republican way of seeing women. And Joe Tacopina, one of the great criminal defense lawyers, he got A$AP Rocky off. He got Michael Jackson acquitted. He got the Sopranos killer off. He got the guy who bludgeoned Natalie Holloway down in Aruba, got him out of jail for 9 years. He's one of the great criminal defense lawyers. Donald Trump, of course, hires him because Donald Trump has committed a crime, so criminal defense lawyer. And I think that Joe Tacopina was smart enough not to do this old argument because Joe has daughters. Joe knows better. I think Trump was telling him what to argue. I think Trump was telling him, from what I hear reported about Trump, telling his lawyer. Well, actually, I heard him every single day telling Alina Habba what to say, what to do. So I think he must have done that with Joe Tacopina, and I think that was Trump's argument. I don't think that was Joe Tacopina's argument. I think Joe Tacopina was doing what his client wanted him to do. They beat up on me for not going to the police. Oh, my God. Has he ever met a woman? I mean, a woman knows if she goes to the police, the man may retaliate. Correct?
Mm-hmm.
The woman may lose her job. Correct?
Mm-hmm.
She may not be able to feed her family. I mean, that's why you don't go to the police. She didn't want her family to find out because the police will be talking to everybody. Her life is basic. You go to the police, forget your life going on ever again. But if you don't go to the police, if you stay quiet, nobody will know about it, and your life can go on.
Yeah.
These are the decisions that women are forced into making when they're assaulted. And then to be banged on for not going to the police. I was amazed at the ignorance, but it's not ignorance. It's their view of women.
Right. And it's still in today with like, if she really was scared, if she really did go through these things, you would go to the police and like, have you seen the police state? They probably wouldn't have even taken that case. They probably would have just been like, oh, we'll take care of it and let you walk out. Like the amount of like questioning, and especially the fact that it's happening today, 1996. What were you wearing? What were you doing?
Oh.
Did you go in with him? Alone, just saying that you were at the store with him would probably been like, no, you don't have a case. And they would have dismissed it. There's nothing. The minute I read those sentences from him, I was angry. I was like, what the hell are you talking about? Do you not know about like the amount of cases that actually never go in front of the court ever when they are reported?
No, it's only out of 1,000 cases. It's out of 1,000. It's only that go to trial and the man is convicted. I think out of 1,000, I think 5 are convicted. I think
it's a single-digit number for sure.
Yeah, no, it's shocking.
Yeah, exactly. Which is amazing because we've had episodes when we talked about the Me Too era, like that's kind of how we started as a duo, talking about triggers and trauma warnings and why things like this, especially in the Me Too era, was important. But we also talked about the importance of civil lawsuits and how they are most of the time the only way to get any justice ever in sexual assault cases or sexual harassment cases.
But nobody has enough money to do the thing.
And they don't even know how to do that.
Dollars?
Yeah, there's so much to that conversation about why. And then also just in the like ideal of suing immediately gets pitched as she's a gold digger. She's a money. Immediately. But like seeing a case like yours has changed the trajectory, especially with you being so loud about how this is about reclaiming my name and how important that is just alone.
That was really the only thing. And in the end, it did, as Robbie Kaplan figured out, it would hurt him to give a bunch of money.
Right.
Particularly if we gave the money away to help women.
Exactly. The fact that he's losing on such a large platform, large scale, is beautiful to see because it takes more and more to be like, see, no, people are understanding how bad this really was. And the fact that he can't let it go is also something that shows like how much of an ego and a sociopath he is.
Yeah, it's impossible for women because difficult to sue a powerful man because the powerful man will always be believed over the woman. Always in every situation. Then if she decides to sue him, he will sue her back for defamation for millions of dollars. Then the woman gets frightened because she does not have millions of dollars, and she will, that's why this doesn't happen. Unless you have somebody, unless you run into George Conway at a party, unless you could, it's really because Donald Trump, and my friend who I told almost immediately after the attack, Carroll Martin, the great New York's anchor woman who's an icon in New York, Tacopina beat up on her bad. Don't beat up on Carroll Martin. Don't put Carroll Martin on the stand. No, do not do that. Do not put Carroll Martin on the stand. He walked in at... Anyway, she was the woman I told almost immediately afterwards. And she said, don't go to the police. He's got 200 lawyers. He will bury you.
Yeah.
So Tacopina, of course, had to ask her all about that. But yeah, it's just that men had lawyers. Women don't have lawyers. Unless you're Sheryl Shamber or somebody. You may have a lawyer or two, but so it's a hard situation. It's a hard situation.
It is. And one of the things that was in the book frustrating, but also I think all of us are living through this right now, is that it's not a surprise. We've seen this pattern of behavior with Trump. He pretty much told us in the infamous Access Hollywood tape, like, what kind of person he is. When I was reading your book, and I was like, no, I've heard about that case. I didn't realize that. And I was like, oh my gosh, we know this about him. And it wasn't enough to prevent him from becoming president twice. And so it can feel very disheartening, but you did win against him twice. Like you said.
Right. That's right, baby.
So how did it feel? Yeah, I know you talk about it in the book, but how did that feel when you were waiting for the verdicts and then after you got the verdicts?
Well, waiting for the verdicts, I felt sort of the weight. Well, first of all, it's impossible. But I feel the weight of all, and I know many of these women, the 23, the 27, the 43 women who all have said, come forward. It's not just me, not just the Access Hollywood tape. It's all the other women who've accused him.
Mm-hmm.
So I felt that. But the waiting, it's impossible to win a sexual assault case because there's no witnesses. We happen to have 11 witnesses. Then we went out. The jury left. Judge Lewis A. Kaplan, who should be on the Sistine Chapel as God himself, one of the most terrifying men I have ever seen in my life, conservative, by the book, break no rules in his courtroom. He and Alina Habba, oh my God. He actually said right before the jury went out, to bring in the verdict, Ms. Habba, you are within minutes of going to lock up, because she actually asked him, she said, Your Honor, I don't like to be spoken to that way. To Judge Lewis. Anyway, so when the jury goes out and you've presented your case in the first trial, where we worked so hard and prepared so hard, we actually presented a very strong case. But Tacopina is one of the great attorneys in the country and very persuasive with a jury. Very persuasive. However, our jury was not a Manhattan jury. Even though you'll read it 1,000 million times on Twitter, they wanted New York, it's the Manhattan jury. No, it was an upstate jury full of people from the Trump counties. Robbie tried to get one of them taken off the jury because he was such a follower of Tim Pool, the conservative who had actually talked about me several times on his podcast and one of the liar I was on. Robbie tried to get Judge Kaplan. Here again, he follows the rule. Judge Kaplan had a private interview with this juror and said, can you fairly render a verdict in this case? And the man said, yes, he could. Judge Kaplan says he stays on the jury. So we really thought we were going to get a hung jury. We've got Trumpers on the jury. And we had exactly the kind of jury that we didn't want. We had 6 men. And they're the guys who all said that she's too ugly in the mock trial. and we had 3 women. So it was pretty terrifying. So we go out at lunchtime. We're in a big marble, beautiful room where we were waiting. Your voice echoes. It's gorgeous. It's in the federal courtroom, which is the mother court. We're in the mother court of the United States of America, the first court that held session even before the Supreme Court. So it's a historic place. And I'm a wreck. And I keep asking, and this team of attorneys is just brilliant. And I keep asking each one, when do you think the jury will come back? And it was obvious that they had 11 questions to answer in this trial, 11 questions. So my team, the entire team, believed that it would take days. Yeah, the team was not only thought it would, they were certain of it because my team had, the team was so brilliant. We had a clerk for Justice Ruth Bader Ginsburg. We had one of the clerks for Justice Kennedy. We had a clerk for who's now clerking for Sotomayor. This is the level of the team we had. And their thing was, Eugene, it's going to take days, just go calm down. So I went into our little witness room. I was taking a nap. And bang, the door opens. Verdict's in. Can you imagine? I nearly had a heart attack. Days and days. It's going to take days and days. You got 11 questions to answer. I think it'll take days and days. The man who opened the door was the Duke of Ferrara, Mike Ferrara, the great Mike Ferrara, who presented our case so perfectly and who wrung the jury's heart. Man, he just banged on them because Tacopina kept saying, because I laughed, because I went to a couple of parties, that I couldn't have been sexually assaulted. Mike Ferrara had lost his wife to cancer. And he said, when something bad happens in your life, does that mean you can't go on with your life? You can't go on and enjoy your life? You can't go on with your career and go to work? You can't go on with it? Is that what Joe Tacopina is saying? So his final argument was brilliant. So he's the one who opens the door, and he looks frightened to death. And when I saw that the Duke of Ferrara looked frightened, I was seized with terror. So we staggered back in the courtroom, and Judge Kaplan said, had you chosen a leader? And the woman stands up, one of the 3 women. So that was a good sign. And the verdict came in. It was, without a doubt, the happiest moment of my life. It was, you could feel the people in the courtroom just ascend with joy. And I understand that news whipped around the world, boom, boom, boom. And there was an off-Broadway play in production at the time. And in a very serious scene, and from what I hear, and a producer ran out on stage and said, Carroll won! And everything stopped and the house lights flashed on and off. That's what it was like in New York. Now, it was impossible. We did it. It was incredible. And Robbie and I were in the car after the great win, making our way through the press and the light bulbs and everything. We got in the car. We went through Chinatown and then up through Soho and then through the Village. And Robbie's on her phone, just yakking her brains out, calling everybody she knows, getting congratulations over them. And I'm sitting in the other corner of the car looking out. And I'm thinking, Donald Trump, this is your town, baby. And I just beat the shit out of you. So it was incredibly great.
I love that. I love so much of this. And honestly, one of the things that we were told that we need to ask you about why you're fabulous, but honestly, just in the first 10 minutes, I kind of knew why you're fabulous. Just from your book, I absolutely know why you're fabulous. And I want to just bathe in your aura because it is fabulous. Okay. I want that to be noted. But also, you kind of already mentioned this earlier, and I think it's important because there's a good closure to this interview is you were awarded $5 million in the first trial and then $83.3 million in the second. But as you had alluded, this wasn't for you. It was for women. It was for the victims. It was for those who are survivors. Can you kind of talk about, with getting this money, what you're going to do with it?
Well, I love to talk about it, but it's changing every day. When I think, when I first started, I thought, well, we'll get women's reproduction rights back. That's how we're going to spend the money. And now every day there's some sort of tragic development with the immigrants and with the arts and with everything being taken away so rapidly. I just don't know. It's just going to have to, we're going to have to take a look-see where it can best be spent. What do you think?
Oh, God.
A chunk of it goes to the lawyers, of course.
Of course.
Yeah, they deserve it. Man.
Yeah. I think that's tricky. I guess it would also depend, as you're saying, we are living in a very rapidly changing environment. So when you actually get it, and looking at where it could be best implemented. But as you said, I do love the idea of giving it to things Trump hates. That's a very fantastic idea.
If he hates it, that's what we're going to give it.
I think definitely you got to go for the queer community as well as the reproductive community as well as sexual assault survivors. Those three are a really good way because obviously those are things that he absolutely have. That's part of the reason he won with the immigration as well. Those are the things he won on. So going after things that he's trying to disassemble.
Right.
Icing on the cake.
Yeah, particularly when you think the numbers of women who have been sexually assaulted in this country are so high, sky high, that people can't even begin to grasp how many people. I mean, because number one, the reporting that's not accurate.
Oh no. And just recently when we were talking about DEI and the fact that he's like, oh, this is all DEI, but the actuality is it actually hurts nonprofits like domestic violence shelters, sexual assault awareness stuff, those things that people were adamantly like, yes, we need to help women who are in domestic violence situations. We need to help women, but they don't care enough to see that those other things that they think is happening is actually taking money away from that. So stuff like that is definitely.
So I'm an old lady. I beat Donald Trump twice. Yes. So it makes no sense to me that the Ivy League universities and the big media companies and the big corporations are bending the knee to Donald Trump because they're frightened of him.
Right.
I don't understand. So what I'm worried about is if they're worried, this is why people across the land are being quiet and aren't moving, aren't standing up, aren't raising their voices because he's got everybody bogarted, right? So I'm going back to one of the oldest things mankind. It's an old idea, older than mankind. It's called signaling. When a population is being attacked or oppressed, there are ways for individuals to signal their support for one another, right? We don't have that signal. MAGA has the red hats. We don't have them. So I suggest that we all take an item which can pick locks, which can open handcuffs, which when straightened out becomes a lethal weapon, which stands for holding things together and unity. I'm suggesting we all start wearing the paperclip. as a signal of our support for the anti-Trumpers as against the president. It's very simple. So I'm wearing this paperclip.
Oh.
We all put on a paperclip. We can see our sisters and brothers who are also not liking what's going on in the country.
Mm-hmm.
We don't have the MAGA hat, but we have this sly, subtle, sneaky.
Mm-hmm.
And at work, if you're going to get in trouble, put it on your pant cuff or put it on your strap of your bag. What do you think?
I like it. Multifunctional. That's the way to be.
Well, Samantha, I want you to start wearing it right now. And Anney, I want you to start wearing it because we need influencers to do it. And you two have got a lot of influence. So if you will every day put on a paperclip, you got one at home, and you probably got one there where you are. Anney, behind you, I know you got a paperclip in there somewhere.
That's the question. It's a mess back there, but I'm sure you're correct.
No, I think the paperclip, we need to recognize each other, and this is just subtle, but we got to start doing it.
I like it.
And for your listeners, clip it on, babes. Clip it on.
You know, I'm also really mad that Donald Trump ruined red hats.
Yeah. No, anybody with a red hat, it's over. I don't trust you, even if it doesn't say on there.
Even if it doesn't say, and I'm like, this isn't fair. He shouldn't have gotten to do this.
You ruined the whole thing. He actually ruined the American flag, too, to be fair. So
he did.
There's that.
He's not ruining the paperclip.
That's correct.
That's true.
This is a big This is a big symbol from the World War II.
Yeah, I was
This is what they wore to show resistance to the Nazi occupation. They wore paperclips. So let's do it.
Yeah, I like it. Okay.
Easy.
Another thing I have to ask you, because you do like, what is it about podcasts that you like? Because you mentioned it before as it being a powerful tool. And do you have one? Should we start one?
No. I'm a good guest, but I'm not a host.
I don't know. You have your whole column that was Ask Eugene. So I think you need to do a podcast. A 30-minute segment where people ask you questions. Come on, once a week.
No, I couldn't.
Look,
you know what?
You started at the top and you were asking us questions. You're already there.
You're already there.
No, dude.
Both of those things.
I can't. No. I love to guest. I love being a guest. I could not do about. First of all, almost half the questions that I answered in the 30 years of writing and advice, I changed now. They were just wrong.
Which is a great time.
Answer.
We could revisit those questions.
No,
oh my God.
No, not me, man. No. No. I'm out of the advice business. All I say now is, do it.
Hey, that might be exactly what we need. That aura of the fabulousness with you telling us, yes, do this. Destroy mankind? Do it.
Do it. That's it. That's all. Yeah, that's all we need to do. Yeah.
That's a good podcast. I'm just saying.
Well, let us know if you decide to do it.
Yes.
And always, we would love to have you back. There's so much we would like to talk about.
You guys are a gas.
You are a delight. Where can the good listeners find you? You've got a lot going on, a lot of books.
Not on a podcast.
Well, first of all, where can they find you? Because they can't find me unless they can find you. So where are they finding you?
That's it. I feel like I'm in some kind of mind trap question because if they're not listening, then what's even happening right now?
I know.
Well, listeners, you can find E.G. Carroll on a wonderful episode of Stuff Mom Never Told You, which is available wherever you get your podcasts.
That's it. You can get me on in a bookstore, Not My Type, and on Substack. E.G. Carroll, Substack.
Yes.
The world is on Substack now. Are you guys on Substack?
Not yet.
What?
We have a podcast every day.
You literally do not have time to be on Substack. You don't have time.
She has 2 podcasts. So she has
I know that. That drives me crazy, and I don't understand it.
I'm with you.
Well, you happen to be very good at it. So you do what you're good at. So do 2 of them. Hell, yeah.
She's doing good.
Yeah. You do 2 of them. That's good. So this is good. So you'll call me anytime.
Please. If you give us that invitation, we'll be like, you want to call in this month? What about this month? So don't open it too high because I'm going to need to be in your fabulousness at all times, please.
Thank you. And also, you got to fill time. You're on here every day.
It's more than just that, but yes.
It's true. So much more.
Yes. Thank you so much for being here. It's been a delight.
It has been amazing.
It's been fabulous. Thank you.
So again, please go check out E. Jean Carroll and this book. It's really, really fantastic, and her writing style is really wonderful. So go check it out. If you would like to contact us, you can email us at hello@stuffmonevertoldyou.com. You can also find us on Blue Sky at Momstuff Podcast or on Instagram and TikTok at Stuff One Never Told You. We're also on YouTube, and we have a new place you can get merch called Cotton Bureau. So check that out. And we have a book you can get wherever you get your books. Thanks as always to our super producer, Christina, our executive producer, Maya, and our contributor, Joey.
Thank you.
And thanks to you for listening. Stuff I Never Told You is a production by iHeartRadio. For more podcasts from iHeartRadio, you can check out the iHeartRadio app, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you listen to your favorite shows.